sorry. We're here to discuss about participative design. It's something we've been working for quite a while. So I'm Romain de Waubert. I'm creative director of the studio. We have Max von Knorring, who is a marketing director and game designer. Before we start, what I wanted to say is we try to do this presentation as concrete as possible because when we started being independent a while back, we didn't know how we could make the game known and attract people to us, and actually we're getting on some type of games that we love but we didn't know how to make. Before we get into the details, what I want to say it's not a marketing tool, it's a development philosophy. So if you want to go for participative design, it's something that you have to structure your whole plan around. We'll look at two things. One is why we did it when we started, and maybe some of you could identify to that, maybe not. And also what tools that we used to really make it concrete and make it work. So just to go back at the beginning of Amplitude, where it was nearly 3 years ago, we were from big teams basically, we work on big games, we're extremely lucky to do that. But after like 15 years of really big development, sometimes what you want is to go back to the roots of the reason why you were making games at first. And that's why we decided to go our own ways, to make Endless Space, and now we're working on Endless Legend and Dungeon of the Endless. We're 7 guys at first, but now 32 guys. So, but there's one thing that we knew in that gap is, as I said earlier, we didn't know how to make these games. We love them, but we didn't know how to make them. And that's why crowdsourcing was for us an issue, possibility. Also, if we go back to 2010, the two main possibilities were either we're going publishing and give your soul to someone who will know to sell it and actually tell you maybe what to do. After 15 years in big publishers, we're not sure we want to go that route, and at the same time, we're actually not sure. Like, we didn't know any sane publisher who really would want to make our games, sell our games. So then we thought about crowdfunding. 2010 was becoming popular. It's not as popular as today, but it was already being shown as being the way of the future. There was a few things with crowdfunding that we were quite afraid of. One, the uncertainty, because you never know if you reach the high level. I mean, nobody knew about us, so we didn't have the right things for that. The other thing is, we know that we wanted to be agile, and we wanted to propose a game, but maybe we could evolve it and change it after a while. So if people backed you for a game that is not the one you build at the end, how will they react? And we're really afraid of that. So that's why we didn't want to go for that. And we decided to go for crowdsourcing. At the time, we didn't find any real examples in games of games being made with crowdsourcing. Although in finished games, you can see a lot of already, for a while already, involvement of the community. So when we said to go for crowdsourcing, we wanted to really check what were, as an independent developers, our strength. And we didn't have that many. The people could like you because they have no reason not to. You're passionate, you're honest, you're harmless. I mean, you will not be a threat to anyone, especially not making the games we make. And the other strength that you have, which is your biggest strength, is you are agile. You do whatever you want, however you want to do it. It's really up to you. Now, what we're all aware of, that being a developer, you're broke. Nobody believes that you can do what you promise you're going to do. And if anyone could know about it, actually they don't. If they really believe in you, they don't even know you exist. So, okay, that was a bit tricky. For that, we tried to address all the issues one by one. Broke, I can't tell you how to solve that. So basically, there's no real ways. All we know, the little money that we had, we wanted to fix it all in development. We don't want to waste our money in advertising or trying to I don't know, seduce in ways we didn't know how to seduce. Credibility, we were hoping that the first project that we did could help. Didn't help that much, So it's not you're a new team. People want to see you deliver as a new team. They don't care what you did really before. I mean, they can listen to you because you know make some games, but that's it. Now the show and tell, and the show and tell is what we see more and more, and we base a lot of stuff on that. What we wanted to do is make the game playable as soon as possible and have people play on it. At the time was through the early access. Actually, we're one of the first early access on Steam. And but also the chance that we have today is, for example, like next week, people are going to be able to play pre-alpha versions of our games at Minecon and Americans Week. So it's a lot of possibilities that we have today to do the show and tell. So people don't really make a good game, actually they can play it themselves and tell you. But the awareness is a bit trickier to solve. So people tell you, oh yes, you need a community. You know, well, that's easy to say. So people, if they don't care about you, they won't come. So then we try to say, okay, community. So, okay, of course. Who is my community? Who will be my community? Who are the guys who will like my games? Where are they? What games do they play? Obviously, they should play a game that is one of my inspirations. Where do they gather? What do they discuss? What we do with that is the last question is, okay, it's fine, you know what they do, where they are, now you have to recruit them. To recruit them, what we did, and that's for us the essence of the crowdsourcing, is to basically make a pact with them. We come very genuinely to them and tell them, okay, I want you to love what I do, but what I promise, what I'll do if you want to come with me, is I'll give you what I have most precious. And for me, that's my game design. That's, I have a game design, I'll show it to you even before the game starts, and I'll listen to what you have to say about the game, and we'll try to implement it. And if not, I'll tell you why we won't do it. But at least we'll do it together, and that's kind of work, actually. So people really want to come and help for that. And actually, Max.
Yeah, so hello everyone. Basically what I'm going to show you are the different means we created for crowdsourcing. So these came little by little while we were exploring crowdsourcing. And the first thing, one of the most important one, was the VIPs. So basically these guys are the sort of first designers, first guys who see your game design documents, first guys who play your games before you put it on early access, etc., etc. We had around like 20, 30 people, and we really wanted them to be experts. So what we did is we went to different types of communities, playing the same sort of kind of games that we're doing, and we tried to see which were the real moders, the guys who had like fan site creators or very active members, and tried to propose them to come and make a game with us. And actually the fact that they're experts makes you win a lot of time. Whenever you give them your game design, they play your game, they have straight away very qualitative feedback because they know your constraints of development. The other thing also that was very important for us was the fact that these guys are opinion leaders within their own communities. So if you manage to convince them, showing them that your game is cool or will be nice, or they will go back to their initial communities and talk about it, and you will recruit more people to your community. So that was a very important leverage for us. And the last thing, which is the most important one, is that those guys will become ambassadors within your communities. Basically, as you've been talking to them in, very close environments, 20 people, 30 people, explaining your game design, talking about those things with them, they will be the first to be able to talk about your game design, justify the decisions you made with them when you open up those game design documents to everyone. So I was just talking about game design documents. This is also one of the very important thing for us, is that, as Romain was saying, was really our precious. It's also a transparency proof for us, meaning that we built a sort of relationship built on trust with them, and to get this trust from the community, you need transparency. So this was one of our transparency proofs. today you can go online and see all our game design documents for our first game in the space. And we're starting to deliver the different game design documents for Dungeon of the Universe little by little. So we can start discussing that with our community. It also becomes a sort of common vision between us and the community. And that's super important. Because if there's no real vision at first, I mean, it becomes mayhem, chaos. You will never finish your game. You still need a sort of, vision, your target in which you're going, sort of limits, and then the community will build within those limits, and that's very important. Another thing is that it becomes also the reference document, meaning that whenever the community starts giving out ideas, or a newcomer comes and start giving out ideas without even reading your game design documents, etc., the VIPs or older members will always bring them back to this reference document and say, hey, you can't, it's impossible to implement that because that's not their game, that's not what they're building. If you want to give out cool ideas or maybe give concrete, constructive ones, if you change that thing like this, maybe they will listen to it or understand it better. And one of the most important things as well is that it gives out constructive feedback. As they have limits, already sort of reference documents, they're not going to give you out crazy ideas like, hey, come on, let's make a level on soccer games in a space game or something like that. So they have this limit, and it makes feedback constructive, and it makes the discussions way more richer. The third mean that we had were roadmaps. So we're seeing a lot of those on different websites, indie developer websites, but even bigger publisher websites. For us, it was also a transparency proof. It was we wanted to show our community where we were, be transparent with them, show them what we achieved, what is the next achievement. For us, it's really educational, meaning that a guy who doesn't really know about game development will say, hey, but you can make this hero, you can make this faction, or you can make this hero, but he doesn't really understand the constraints in production we have. So with this roadmap, what is interesting is that he will see little features that will accumulate and make the feature he's really talking about. So it's educational. The more the guys understand your constraints, the more their feedback will be relevant, and the more they'll be positive, and the more the whole community will be created. The final thing, which was pretty interesting as well, is it was a nice way to tease on some features we were working on, because we always wanted to show the previous achievements we did for certain categories, but also the next ones. So sometimes, community was happy to, hey, there's something new coming up, but we didn't hear about that, etc., etc. The votes, yeah, this was also very interesting for us. Basically, what we had at the beginning was a forum, game design document, so like quite hardcore stuff, and we wanted something more accessible for anyone, just like in 2-3 clicks, have the feeling of changing something in the game, making a big decision on something that will be in the end game you're looking at. So for us, votes was accessible, fast. All the votes we did, we wanted them to be real game changing. So here we have like the faction for the expansion pack. Can need time for sure. So I was talking about competitions a little bit earlier. It's something that came also a little bit later because we felt like there was a real creative mood in the community. The guys were, hey, I'd love to have this faction in game, and I'd love to have this and that, etc. And we thought, hey, that's pretty cool. What about making it a competition? People create and propose their ideas, and we'll try to implement one of those ideas in game. And actually, it became really a community catalyst, meaning that the guys started not to be competitive about their ideas, but co-creative. Meaning one guy came, hey, I have this idea of faction. And the other guys came up to him like, yeah, it would be even better if you add this and this. And it was super positive and super co-creative. So that was very important. So competitions are interesting as well for that, meaning that it creates a real dynamic of creation within the community. The size of the competitions doesn't really matter. It's more of having
competitions coming up, and actually the guys created a whole faction for our game, but we didn't plan that at all. But it just became by little competitions that gathered together to become real creations for the game. So early access, for sure this is like something trendy at the moment. I don't know if we were the first one, but at least we were on Steam on early access before it was even called early access. So we had our alpha. It's also really amazing tool in terms of community. It was a community booster for us. We multiplied like in a week by 10 the number of players we had on our community. But I think that you can't plan revenue on early access. It can be really tricky, especially when the early access here to get more feedback from the players, so maybe getting more development in the game, etc., etc. So you really have to watch out for that. And one big key learning we have is that quality is must-have in early access. There's several reasons for that. First, it's the players will start playing, and it's usually the early adopters, the guys who talk to their friends, etc. So you need a qualitative version online. But it's not only the players, it's also the journalists who can just download your game and make an alpha preview and start talking about it. So it's important. But the most important actually is that if you have a quality version for early access, that means that your community will come back with qualitative feedback and will not be focused on bugs or a weird experience, gameplay experience. They will come up on really making the experience better, making some features better, talking to you and explaining you what they felt. And that's really the most important part. And of course, one of the big things is we need this to be fun. Because we wanted the community to have fun while creating, not just feel like they're going to work and giving out feedback and coming back excited. We wanted that to be fun. And gamification, I'm not going to make you a presentation about that because we had thousands of those, but it worked. It worked for us, and actually it became the game of creating a game, which was pretty interesting. But it's all parts of those rewards that you can give to the player that I'm going to talk a little bit later. Just quickly to give you three big things, three big impacts on the dev process. First of all, the game vision. So the game vision, you need a clear game vision at the beginning. Otherwise, when you give out your game design documents, it's going to be chaos. You'll be justifying them rather than enriching them with the community. So it's something that needs to be clear, that you need to communicate on, that you need also to explain as much as possible to everyone, to the VIPs and the players. The priority list is also very important, meaning that you need to have the same priority list as the community. So you have your features, you have your game going on, but the community is really eager to have one of the features to try out something, to iterate. So it's super important to work on a common priority list with the community. So all those ideas they gave to us. We worked and told all the guys who gave us ideas why we're putting them, why we can't right now, why we'll do it later, why it's impossible, why it's out of the vision. So it's important to listen to the community and be able, flexible and reactive to put one priority on top of another. And of course, the most important part is you need to schedule gaps. That's something we did really early on when we started to think about this, is that okay, if we really want to go for it, if we really want to do it, we need, in our development planning, gaps to implement the community's features, because we won't be able to do it if we have a really strict planning. You have always crunch periods, events, really always timing problems. So you need to schedule those gaps in which you will add all the features from the community. But there are also risks. Little things we just want to talk to you about, mainly forums, can be pretty the place where people go to criticize, you know, tell that there's bugs and stuff and etc. As being an indie, as Romain was saying at the beginning, there's a sort of sympathy for it. You know, you're harmless, you're passionate. So the forums will mainly be positive at the beginning. So you need to keep that positive feel. The VIPs will help that if you talk to them a lot. Transparency as well will help that a lot. And you need to be honest with your community. Explain why you can't do something, why this feature is cool but can't be implemented. And you need to educate the community a lot, always actually, always. Not that just at the beginning, but always, because you'll have always newcomers in there. To avoid the unreasonable ideas. Basically, the guy who doesn't understand your constraints, your planning constraints, and will ask for crazy stuff, and if you don't do it, they'll go nuts and just blast on the forums, etc. You also want to avoid irregular feedbacks. That's what I was saying, you need constant, honest, complete feedback all the time. The community has to avoid, you need to avoid the feeling of being unrewarded. That's why gamification comes here, but that's just, sort of gimmick. You also need all those different ideas that are implemented in game. You need to show them that you're doing stuff. We didn't really know what we would do post-release, but we had so many cool ideas and so much going on with the community that we started to release free add-ons for our game. So we're at our 5th free add-on just to implement those cool ideas, and actually, it makes the community bigger. You have better feedback, players talking to each other, etc. So there's a real reward behind listening to the community and adding new content for them. And other stuff that we're doing is basically the most active players and VIPs. We invite them to the Gamescom, to have a deal with them, show them in exclusivity our announcements. We make sometimes beers together at our office, so you're all invited if you want on the Fridays, where we all just drink a beer with fans and people from the industry. And the last thing you want to avoid is really the irrational game design documents, because if they're not really, if you can't justify your game design documents or explain why you're doing that, you're just going to lose time trying to justify them defend them more than justifying them and explaining them. And you're going to lose a lot of time and a lot of cool feedback from the community. So I'm just going to let Romain wrap up and talk to you about the successes and failures.
So obviously, as Max was saying, the VIPs were the first success that we had. They are the first guys to join us. They are the backbone of our community today. Without them, we wouldn't be who we are today. So they're really, really good guys, and that's why we spend so much work with them. Success also is like if you happen to go to our forums, you'll see that it's extremely positive and creative. You don't have flame wars, you don't have crazy things that you can see on other places. I think it's really linked to what we said earlier. There's no reason not to like us so far, and we want to keep that going, and that's why we have to work a lot on that. The honesty and openness helps a lot. Self-moderation, I think also it helps in the positiveness. We don't really moderate our forums. The guys do that for us. Actually, the community itself moderates the forums. And most of the time they can actually, if you're open and tell them why you do something, they can explain after to the others what you do and why you took the decision. And very early you can stop a problem that could have happened. The last success is to be able to the game, we consider it a live game. That's also what we tell the guys when we ship a game. It's shipping now, but it's still live. And the game only starts living, let's say, from the alpha until no one plays it. But as long as we can, we will support it and continue. And that's why we did that with the 5 packs or 4 packs that we did so far. This not always been, success. So the first one was the expansion pack. We've just been, I don't know what happened with it. So we did the expansion pack. It was really, really cool. We loved it, and we released it. It was make them understand we ship something better. I just forgot to tell them. We will always want to have early access, whether it's an expansion pack or a game. So we always want to do that. Just have to tell the guys. Newcomers, you were talking about that a bit. We forget that every day we have new guys, and sometimes you would want to expect them to know everything that you really posted, and they won't. And I don't want them to expect that. So it's all right to explain again and again what you already explained. Hopefully, your community will do that for you. But okay, it's to take into account that communication channels. That is something that we didn't realize at first. We thought that if we're posting something somewhere on Facebook, on Twitter, or on forums, on the blog, because we have many places where we can be, we thought that it would be good for everyone. What we realized actually is our forum guys are the forum guys, and then not the Facebook guys, which are not the Twitter guys. So everyone is really has its own media to follow you, and they rarely will follow you on all media at a time. So if you want to communicate something, make sure to say it everywhere, because we want to realize that. And of course, and the last one, and that's wasn't that good so far, so we need to fix that someday. A lot of people actually, what they do, they only go to the game. They launch a game, they shut down the game, and they don't go to your forum. So if you do something new, if you fix something, they will not know. They can actually maybe never come back to the game because they've seen an issue that they hit and they don't know you're working on fixing it. Communication in-game, which is more and more common nowadays, is a must, especially with this kind of lab development. The bandwidth is just that we are 30 people, but our community rose from, I think, in beginning of Alpha, we were 2,000 guys playing the games, bought the games, and now it's 500,000. So it's a lot of people, and we of course can spend less time per person. So that's why also we had to ask everyone in the team to go and discuss with the community. So all of that in a nutshell. To summarize, it's very important to first to know who you're making a game for. If you want to go that way, I mean, we're just looking for. If you want to go that way, I would say just know who you're making a game for. If you know, you should know what they want. If you know what they want, you should be able to make a pact with them to give them what they want, what is most precious to them and to you. If you have that, always be transparent. I mean, there's no point trying to hide anything to your community. Either they will find out, or so it's frightening at the beginning to be transparent, but then just good. And iteration. That's when you work. Sometimes already, I guess probably today, just not in front of the community, you already iterate a lot. I'm fairly sure. The community loves that. So what you do for yourself, you can do that for your community, and you'll see that they will be extremely positive on how you do it. They will not judge you on the mistakes you do through your iterations. And what Max was saying, the schedule gaps, it's why I'm saying it's a development process. It's not a marketing tool. So your whole team must be built around that. And if you don't plan time to include the community feedback, it's useless. Basically. So it's very important. Well, so for us, we'll continue with that. Before the end of the year, we hope to have the next iteration where we want to really push forward on that. We want to play a lot more on the interaction with the team and the community. There's a lot to do still. There's a lot to make it even more of a game to play and making the game. And yeah, that's basically it. So I hope we'll be able. I hope we convince you that maybe there's another way, so that you can try. I hope maybe you're really trying it. And that's it. Thank you very much.
Are there any questions?
Hello. I just wanted to ask a question about ownership. Who owns the finished game, and have you thought about that? And is the community involved in that?
Yes. Are you talking legal ownership or? Okay. So basically, okay, it's one of the most trickiest questions. Thanks for starting like that. No, it's basically that's why we said we have a vision. The vision. When you make the pact, it's true that you have to be extremely clear about the vision. Who owns the vision? You have the vision. It will help them not to get lost. It would help you keep the ownership. It's your game, and you invite them to make your game with you. What you tell them is, okay, I'll make this game. That's what I want to do. You want to make it look like the game you want to have, or the game you want to play. And say, okay, of course, this I always want to see in this game, or the game you're making. I want to make sure you don't forget that. So they'll make it theirs, but it stays, the game of your studio, of your team making it. In the end, it's still you coding it, it's still you writing documents, it's still you writing music or whatever. It's still your game. But without entering into legal details, I hope that our community feel that there's a little bit of them in the game, and that's what we want also to achieve.
First of all, thanks a lot, because it was really amazing. I work at Motion Twin in Bordeaux.
Okay.
I make games since maybe 10 years now.
Okay. Big fans of.
Nice to meet you. And it was really refreshing, because all these concepts are based on simple ideas that can be applied quite easily, I think, to almost any project. And to be honest, I think I will on Monday do that as well, because it's really good.
Cool.
And I have two questions. It's almost practical questions. First one is about spoil. Most of the time, when you release a game, you have lots of expectations on the surprise, on the wow effect of the game. And usually you do teasing and this kind of thing. With this method, on day one, you have no surprise, because the whole game design is exposed. So how do you manage that? That's my first question. Because
Okay. It's basically, you have to know that not everyone will be part of that team at the beginning, of that members. These ones, yes, they will not have that. But if you look today, so we said we're going to have 500,000 players, 70,000 on the forums. So it's 15% roughly that are in the community. So these ones, of course, they like the spoilers, but 85% will discover the game through the efforts of these other guys. So maybe you want some questions?
Yeah, and I think there's also the fact that they don't discover everything they would like the release, but they still have this process of discovering things with you while you're creating them with them. So I think it's cool for them to discover the new faction designed by our artist that they talked about like for a month before. I think it's like a longer process. Maybe the experience at the end of playing the game is different. I'm not sure it's better or worse, but it's way different. But maybe it can also be more exciting for those guys, because they're maybe not checking out at the final ending of the game, but they're maybe looking at the little detail, this feature that they talked about and that we implemented and that they see during the whole game. So I think they're finding some excitement in that as well. There's one thing as well that is important to say, that is that Endless Space and actually the two other games mentioned of the Endless and Endless Legends we're working on are randomly generated worlds, and that helps a lot. I mean, it's not something super scripted with a perfect ending, etc., with a storyline going on, even though we're trying to do some kind of stuff with that, but it changes the vision of the guy who's playing, because he feels like he's playing the game every time he turns on the computer.
It's true, like they work on the bricks of the games with you, but they never know what these bricks will do. So the experience will be different for everyone.
I think this point is important, because the random game is, I think, part of the success of this method. It's very interesting. And my second question is pretty fast. I guess I've been, like I said, talking to communities and managing players for 12 years actually, and it takes an awful lots of time, really. And how do you manage that? Because you say you have to be really attentive on the forum, you have to follow everything and to give lots of feedback to the community.
That's the bandwidth issue that we're discussing, and it's true. It's a real problem that you really know, especially when you make the games. If I was just sitting and not making games all day long, you know, it would be a lot easier. Here, that's why we had to tell everyone in our teams to we try to identify people in the team that could actually add bicycling to the community. You know, some people they don't like it. You know, you won't force them to discuss on the forums in your team. Some people they could work on elements. Could be a gameplay programmer, could be an artist. Who really want to share with the community about it, and then you encourage them to do that, and they could take a lot of the discussions on them. Of course, you don't want them either to spend the whole day on the forum, so you'll still have to monitor that. We have community manager within each team, so basically that's her job to also let us know when we need, you know, to discuss. So that she could go.
She's alone.
She's alone, yeah. And she like moves all around, very small and running. Yeah. But anyway, she come and tell you, okay, there's this discussion. You have that to answer on. So we try to do that.
Yeah, basically. She can tell there's very cool discussion going on there. You should go and check it out. There's also one thing also that was super interesting for us that we didn't plan at first, is that the community structures itself. And when we told them, okay guys, we want to make a game with you, okay? Here's the design documents, give us your ideas, let's discuss everything, and let's see what we can achieve. And the community actually, you know, had this energy, and they started to structure the ideas that were given. They made us win an awful lot of time, meaning there was like 300 ideas going on everywhere in different forums and threads. And you know, there's a couple of guys who just like gathered and listed everything. Okay, the guy certainly spent like 3 days on that, you know. And we thought, oh man, this is awesome. Okay, let's like gather together and give feedback on all those ideas, one by one. Let's take time to do it, but at least the guys will understand what is going in, what is not going there, etc., etc. And actually, everything, you know, as Romain was saying at the beginning, it was more of an exploration. We didn't really know what crowdsourcing was and how to do it. And the community is the most powerful tool ever. I mean, those guys are amazing. They can, like, you know, grab a mountain and throw it on another continent. So, you know, it's just maybe one dev running around, but it's the whole community also structuring, helping you out. Because these guys also have the same target as you have. It's the target of making the best game you can with the means you have. And that's just something amazing.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Romain. Thank you, Max. It's now lunchtime, so you just have to go upstairs.